I ventured into Abbott's magic probably 35 years ago and was entertained by a little guy named Duke Stern. After I bought my share of magic stuff, I said to him, I want a trick that I've got to work on. Well, he liked that and sold me a set of multiplying balls. Little red ones, 1.5 inches, 3 and a shell. That was my start in the world of sleight of hand. Cardini was my idol and is today. He was my mentor, my hero back then. He accomplished what nobody has since him. He was a great manipulator, but he concealed his dexterity in his act. Balls, cards, cigarettes appeared to his bewilderment. Magic occurred around him and to him. And he had that alcohol thing going for him, slightly tipsy, which kind of added to the mystery. In the book by Louis Ganson, Routine Manipulation Part 2, Ganson gives Cardini credit. He says, some people believe that manipulation is just a method to produce an effect that is contrary to the natural laws. It should not be an exhibition of the type of skill a juggler would use in his performance. Remember, the illusion of the balls appearing, vanishing, and changing color should remain a mystery, or the illusion is spoiled. Regarding styles, another approach to the balls, different from Cardini, is found in Alan Wakeling's book. Wakeling learned this routine from Roy Benson. Quoting from the book, Benson told Wakeling, here are the rules. You start with 2 balls, so you can end up with 5. It's a better climax. And most important of all, you never produce a ball out of the shell, just from your hands. Flash up the routine with a couple of skillful moves, and it'll be fine. This routine is very, very stylish. It's dramatic and mystifying. Currently, Mark Kalin is doing it professionally. Another great exponent of sleight of hand is Harry Reiser. He lives in Indianapolis. In his book, The Feints and Tempts of Harry Reiser, you will find 2-ball routines. The first is with golf balls and no shell, very natural. The second is true to the Hoffman style ball handling. His approach to each is clean and deceptive. Natural is a good word to describe what Reiser does. So he's very deceptive. Speaking of books, there's a lot of books on the subject of magic with balls. But to keep things simple, I've brought 4. Alan Wakeling's book, The Magic of Alan Wakeling. Harry Reiser's book, The Feints and Tempts of Harry Reiser. Louis Ganson's book, Routine Manipulation 2. And Professor Hoffman's book, More Magic, which, as we all know, is a very old book. And I've also got with me an article from an old periodical, Al Monroe's Magical Miscellany, that we'll look into shortly regarding the history of balls and who invented the shell and ball principle. Well, you can thank your lucky stars to have a tape like this to learn the real secrets of sleight of hand and magic. And as we'll learn, the real secrets don't lie in skill, but rather in presentation and your personal style. Speaking of which, let me begin now by improvising a little routine for you. Here we go. after all the books, moves, trick balls, and advice, that's where I've ended up. It took me a long time to make a concise routine. At one time, I had 10 balls and 5 colors. And another piece of advice I can share was given to me by Di Vernon. He said, magic is not confusion, and all those colored balls are confusing. Do a routine with white balls, maybe one color change, get in and get out. Now, let's look at the all-time master, Cardini. Now let's look at an old friend of mine, Neil Foster, and his multiplying ball routine. Now let me list the categories that we're going to cover in this tape to help you learn and maybe make up your own routine. The history of magic with balls, a general look at that subject. Apparatus that's available. We're going to look at some moves that you might want to adopt. We'll look at multiplication. We'll cover my routine, basically. And we'll talk briefly about music. I'm no expert on the history of magic, but I do respect the history of magic. I have a book by Professor Hoffman, More Magic, and I also have a copy of Al Monroe's Magical Miscellany. And this is a curious, curious story. You know by now that the secret of the multiplying balls is that half a ball is used, the other balls can fit inside. In More Magic by Professor Hoffman, he gives credit to Vautier de Colta. And they go on to explain a routine using 3 balls, similar to what Harry Reiser does. Now, in Al Monroe's Magical Miscellany, they give credit to a guy named George Wright of Reading, Ohio. My real name is George Wright, and I'm from St. Mary's, Ohio. I don't know what the answer to this is, but if you do find out, please give me a call. I'm very curious to learn. All right, now we're in apparatus, as you saw. We want to talk quickly about the size of balls that you might want to select to use. I have a set here that I got from Duke Stern 100 years ago. These are the little 1.5 inch, and these are solid wood from Germany, and they're very nice as far as that goes, but they're maybe not quite big enough to play on stage. You'd want to get a little bigger ball, but if you're just starting out and you're younger and you've got smaller hands, this would be an ideal size for you to select. They're 1.5 inch solid wood balls, okay? Now the next step, obviously, from 1.5 inch would be 1.75 inch. Now, I've got a set over here made by Fair Magic in Los Angeles, California. Of course, they're no longer in business. But this is a beautiful set of red multiplying balls made by Floyd Fair. They're a little larger, as you can see, show up a little bit better. And, of course, your hands would need to be a little larger in order for you to handle these comfortably. Once again, wood multiplying balls. The size that Alan Wakeling in his book recommends you use, or Roy Benson does, are the bigger 2-inch balls. He actually in the book talks about 2 1/8 inch. These are made by Owen Magic Supreme in California, and these are 2-inch white. And we're going to talk in a minute about colors, but right here you can see that the larger 2-inch white multiplying balls show up much better than the red, and much better than the 1.5 inch or 1.75 inch. So if you were working in a larger situation, bigger stage area, you'd want to use the bigger balls for better visibility, okay? Something happened though. These are wood, as were all the balls I showed you. Not too many years ago, 20 years ago, a fellow up in Toledo, Frank Ratke. Ooh! These are tough. These are big, particularly on a cement floor like that. You don't want to miss. He came up with a new compound that the world started using as far as the multiplying balls. And the compound was made out of silicone, okay? Up until he came out with those balls, everyone kind of coveted this ball here. These are from Magic Incorporated. They're golf balls. And they're a spongy material on the inside, kind of covered with a harder material, and they have got a very, very nice shell. If I was to turn that over, you could see it's metal. It fits snugly onto the ball. You can show the ball freely, more or less, and you can then move to the multiplication from 1 to 2. These are these Ireland balls. You can't get them anymore. Most of them, frankly, are so old, they're 30, 40 years old, that they're hard. You know how rubber, after a very long period of time, hardens, and they're very difficult if you could find a set at all. But the shell was always very appealing on this set of balls. Frank came out with a set of balls called the tournament golf balls in, the early 70s, and he could correct me if I'm wrong. But what he did is he found a way to mold silicone into balls. And the balls I used for that little improvised routine that I did were the Frank Ratke 1 3/4 billiard balls. They're not golf balls, but the first balls he came out with, kind of to replace, I think, the Magic Ink balls, were golf balls. Now these are silicone, and they grip to your fingers very, very well. You'll find that a wooden ball hasn't got quite the cling. You can't move quite as quickly as you can with the silicone balls. Basically, here's the difference between wood and rubber balls. Rubber balls do cling better to your fingers. So if you get nervous or you perspire, you'll have a better chance of being able to hold onto the ball. Okay? Another benefit of the rubber balls is if you drop one on stage, you get this big super ball type of bounce, which puts you right back in the game. Of course, I, Scaldini, never drop a ball. Watch carefully. Oh, but you see, if you do drop a ball, you're able to grab it and get back into the game. Okay, so the silicone balls grip good and they bounce. And that's two nice features of them. But let's say you're going to work in a venue where the people are a little closer to you. One of the things that is most deceptive about multiplying balls that are made of wood is the fact that you can crack them together. You show them on both sides. We'll look at this move here shortly. You can crack them together, which is very convincing. It shows that they're solid. Okay? As well, you can more or less hit the shell right on top, that ball there, and perform a move that way, which is very, very deceptive with the wooden balls. So the wooden balls crack together, you can hear them, but they certainly don't bounce, and they may be a little bit slipperier than the silicone balls that Fachini makes. I recommend Fachini for stage. That's what I use when I do my act, Scaldini. And when you're working in a closer environment, actually I don't use 2-inch balls. I use something like these. And I do use red versus the white. Okay? There was a ball that came on the market from France made by Monsieur de Camp. And they were called glitter balls. And up close, you could sell them. You get them in the light. Remember in the Abbott showroom, they used to point the lights down at the glass showcases, and they had them in a little velvet box. They're very, very attractive and so on, up close. But I think you can even tell here on camera that these are not as visible as white or red. I think white wins hands down, red second, and then these glitter balls or even Vernet balls are questionable. They're hard to see. You can't make out the outline of them very well. So personally, I wouldn't use these. I have a few of these. I bought these at the get-together here just this past year. Greg was kind of closing out on them, so I got a set of the gold, and I always did have a set of the silver, 2 silvers and a red for a color change in the glass routine, okay? But I just don't think they offer the visibility that a solid white ball does, okay? Now, what I did when I made up this little routine, I looked at all this stuff at home and I figured, now what can I do in terms of a little routine to show you if I'm just working casually and I don't have a hat or I don't have a finish. You can take balls and just put them in your pocket and you show and you get 2, put 1 in your pocket like so, and you've got 2 here, reach there, take 1 out, put it in the pocket again, and come away with the boom boom 4. And you can just do it that quick, put them in your pocket. You're not using a hat. The hat was a little cumbersome, and you can get yourself a nice cute, and I'll show you that move in a minute, routine. But the problem with it, really there's no finish. There is that in and out move that I came up with about 20 years ago that helps, but there's no big finish when you're just working here clean like so. This giant ball is something I thought, well, I'll throw a giant ball in the hat and we'll finish with that. Basically what it is a big ball. It's got a hole in it, and it's just inside the hat. And here we're going to, instead of working out of our pockets, our coat pockets, I've got a coat I'm going to show you here momentarily, you work out of a hat. Okay? Now, the idea is that as you produce the balls and they multiply, you then very simply just load these balls into this giant ball. Boom, 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 as if you're dropping them into the hat. That would be the shell and all. You pick up, like so, just turn the hat over and grab the ball, show the hat empty. I was doing a thing where I was closing the hat, setting it back on the little stand here, setting the big ball down, and going like so. But certainly the big ball is a nice finish for a ball routine because it lets the audience know that's the end of the routine. So it's a good prop to use. Now, there's another finish that people have used over the years. Right now, I think we're going to have to cut. Let me get a coat on, and I'll show you this other finish called the flash 4-ball production. Okay, now, the flash 4-ball production. You're in a position with your right hand where you've got two balls solid. You've got a solid ball here with a shell. And you're at a point where you've done a routine and you're going to produce 4 in this hand. You're near the climax. You lead with your right shoulder. You show the both sides of your hand. You reach out and you produce that 4th ball, which gets your little hand. You just then have to basically turn and face the audience. When you do, you come up, you sell the fact that you now have 8 balls. And that's always a good little climax. You take the balls, drop them one at a time into the receptacle. Usually when you're doing the stage act, you're working out of a hat. And there it is, the flash 4-ball production. Now, let me explain how that's done. This is done a little differently than the average one on the market. Generally, you'll find flash 4-ball productions that have all 4 balls hooked together. Now, this one, as you saw when I dropped the balls into the hat, is different because the balls are separate in between my fingers. The way that's accomplished is these are plastic, basically balls you get at a golf course or maybe a driving range. They're plastic balls you'd practice driving with. Don't go too far. They're solid. They're not wiffle balls. You just drill little holes in them. You get a brass rod. You put a safety pin at the top of it. And if these are just a little bit off center, they'll create their own grip. They won't fall off from that little brass rod that runs down through them. That's positioned there. You're in your routine here where you've got, like I mentioned, you've got the shell's got a ball in it. This is your shell between your thumb and finger. And here you've got the 2. You're here, you're here. Your hand then, as you come here and you show one more time, I'm going in with my left hand, and I'm going to set these down right now so that I don't. My left hand grabs these, pinky at the bottom, kind of interlacing, and I just pull them down off from and roll a little bit, and then you go 4, and you just turn towards the audience, and there you have all 4 between your fingers. Now you want to make sure you get rid of the one that's the shell in your right hand first. So you come in and drop it, then you drop the bottom, drop here, drop there, and that is especially good for magicians because they expect those 4 from your left hand to be all hooked together, but they're not, they're separate. So not only is that a flash 4-ball production, but it's got a little twist that'll make you a little bit unique when you do that finish to your ball routine. Now, the next thing in the area of apparatus I want to talk to you about is holders. I've got some holders, 2 types under this coat, and I've got a big coat so that you can see easily in here. This holder is made out of material. I have a lady that helps me build magic. She actually is a woman who makes bridal gowns, and she's very, very good at sewing. And I described, and it's in Louis Ganson's book, Routine Manipulation, Part 2, it's a holder for balls. Now this holder is used for wooden balls. Next to that is wire clips. Wire clips are used for silicone or rubber balls. Because if you place a silicone ball into this black sleeve here, it's not going to move freely. It'll bind inside there. So if you're going to use a clip or a holder under your coat, when you're using a rubber one, rubber balls, you want to use the wire clip. And of course you can reach into your hat here and grab a ball, and just in that action, you see, you're able to steal another ball. So that's the beauty of these clips. And I'll get into that section called multiplication in a minute. Let me put inside this holder some wooden balls. The holder I have here was made to hold 1 3/4 balls. And I'll take these beautiful fair balls, mine holds 3, and I'll slide them down into the holder. Now the holder is just like I say, a sleeve, kind of like, it's got some elastic at the bottom there so that the ball doesn't fall out. And basically all of this stuff is not terribly complicated. It's a safety pin holding it under my coat. One thing about a holder that's nice is the balls are inside a black holder. So if you have your coat open up like so, if you had white balls there, you'd see them. So what you want to do, and what I do when I do my stage act, I have a piece of black material that hangs over these holders. I still use wire holders, but I've got a little black curtain that's got a little weight in the bottom to cover those in case if I make a move that were to open up, you would see black against the lining of my tux. You wouldn't see the white balls in there. Now the sleeve that these red billiard balls are in, they're more or less concealed. You might see the sleeve, but on stage wouldn't be as noticeable. Now, the beauty of the holder, just like the clip one, is that you can very quickly, and I'm doing a funny little move here, you can produce 1, you can produce 2, show both sides of your hand, of course. Then you can come back here, take this one out, show it, and you've got 3, and if you'd like, you could place one over on this side of your table, or move with this hand, place this one over here, and you then have this one here, and however you'd like to, you end up producing another ball. And I was using the holder to obtain those balls. So I'll get into the multiplication notion of using a holder or working out of a hat in the next category, which is multiplication. Let me show you next this apparatus. This is a ball stand. Now, as you probably have seen in magic catalogs or at the different conventions, these devices, this one is made by Abbott's Magic in Michigan, and it's kind of been reworked, repainted, and so on. But it's a prop, more or less, that you can use to work into your routine. The basic effect would be that you place a ball into the stand like so, and very quickly you're in a position where you can produce another ball. Now at this time, you can take this ball and place it back into the stand. All right. The idea of the trick. Now maybe you take your pocket handkerchief out and you cover up the ball disappears, and you do a little work with a handkerchief. And I'll show you a move here as well shortly. Place the ball back into the stand. That's the, let me put the ball into the stand, because the ball trick is over right now, and I'm going to put the ball away. We're going to do some card magic now. I'm a little sick of the ball trick. I'm going to place the ball into the stand, and we're going to go into rope magic instead of ball magic. We'll do a little rope magic. Let me take the ball, place it into the stand, and call it a day. Tell you what, one last trick with the balls. I'll take this ball here, and I guess you probably know which hand it's in. It's over, actually it's dumb little trick altogether. But this is a ball stand. It's, like I said, one made by Abbott's in Colon. You can get them that are old, nice, very expensive, different principle kind of, but generally the same. The way this works, I hate to show it to you kind of, is there's half balls all the way around the outside, and on the inside you've got the real solid ball. Now, You need to learn, and you look in a mirror, this is how you learn this kind of sleight of hand. You need to be able to take the ball and pretend to place it into that hole and get away with this ball and do a little take. Try it again. You say, wait a minute here. Put the ball into the stand. The idea is the trick with the balls is over. Okay? Now let me just turn this way. Now pretend the audience is over there. The way I do it is I actually pretend to just push it right in there. I take it every bit of the way. It looks like it's going right into the stand. But what I do is then I just let it roll into my hand, and I roll that ball into view. Just come away very casually, very natural. And now you're in a position where you can say, ladies, and you've got another one here. And again, just take it and you pretend to just push it right in there, just exactly the way you would do it. And the way you can practice is, practice on the center one. That's how you put it in there, and then you produce another one. So the ball stand is a real pretty prop. I enjoy using them. It's a fun little utility device. And I hope through all of this stuff I show you, you can work up a little routine. Let me show you one more little thing here that you could do in conjunction with ball stand here, or you could do it just during your ball routine. Basically, you show the ball, you grab it like so, and what happens is it changes into a pipe. Place the pipe in your mouth, you get a ball out of your pocket, place it into the stand, and then the ball comes back, and that's that. Basically, this is years ago I had an idea of doing a routine, and Sherlock Holmes was the premise, and I went out and bought this pipe and painted it white. And I used to, in my act many years ago, do this, where I stole this pipe that was hanging off the back of my table, and basically as I was in the hat, I just took the pipe and I palmed the actual pipe part of it, and it just ran up my arm like so, and I came forward with the ball. Now this is as simple as it gets, yet it's very visual. You just take and you show the ball, and you grab the pipe and drop the ball in your hand and come forward like that. I think that looks pretty visual. I mean, people always got a kick out of that. Now you've got a ball in your hand that you reach in your pocket and produce however you want to get out of it, or you set it down and finish your ball routine with another kind of a climax. But once again, you can have it in your pocket here. It's kind of, you want to paint the end a little black there, or have it off the back of your table. You could have it under your coat clip for that matter. In any event, you need to show the ball, get a little misdirection working. You're here, you come up like so, and you grab it, and you just make a change. Pipe for ball. There you go. Reach in your pocket, you get the ball. I hope that gives you an idea of some of the apparatus. We talked about the size of the balls, depending on the size of your hands. The old Magic Incorporated multiplying golf balls, and how Fakini came out with this silicone material that most everybody uses. And the notion of wood versus rubber. We talked about the glitter balls, and they look real pretty, but sometimes I think they're a little hard to see. We also talked about the giant ball as a finish to a ball routine, which always gets a nice rise out of people. We did a flash 4 ball production, which is unique in that the balls were separated. We talked about our holders, the wire ones for the rubber balls, and the cloth one that, of course, is for the wooden balls. We looked at a ball stand. There's a lot of different types on the market, and then I threw in a little pipe production at the end. So, with that, let's move on to our next category, okay? Okay, we're going to get into some moves now, and to start right from the very fundamentals, I want to talk to you a little bit about background, because you know that a magician, generally, people think of a magician with a white tuxedo shirt and a black bow tie and a tuxedo jacket. And what happens when a man does a magician does some magic with balls or cigarettes, what have you, and he passes the ball into this area in through here, on stage the audience with a spotlight can't see the ball. You lose a lot of the visibility of your white ball. So it's important, if you're going to do sleight of hand on stage, to remember to try to control what the background is that you're placing these smaller sleight of hand objects like balls or cards or cigarettes in front of. And that may mean that what you might want to do is lower your hand down so that you're around your cummerbund level. Matter of fact, I had this vest made so I would close out a certain area right in here that's white, so the only white was in here. So if I do my sleight of hand down in this area here, I'm in front of a black background. It shows up good on stage. So I won't belabor that, but it is important that you do keep a good dark background behind you. Of course, we've got good lighting. We're in a TV studio here, so that your objects you're manipulating contrast well with the background. Now, we're talking moves. The next subject I want to talk about is palming. You know, you hear the word palming, and the first thing you try to do is take an object, you place it in your palm, and you try to hold your hand natural, palming the object. Well, that is something that you don't do, and it's really a misnomer. You really don't palm per se. Generally speaking, even with a coin or with a card, it's important to remember that you want your hand to appear natural. So take some time. Look at people's hands. Just look at how, when they're standing there at rest, look at the way their hands are. And I don't think you're going to find too many people that are standing at rest with their hand like this, because it's just a dead giveaway. So we're going to look at a fake transfer in just a second, which is this maneuver here. The trick is to hold the ball, just cup it in your hand. It is in the palm. It's not in my finger palm area. It is held in my palm area, but just the weight of my thumb here is pushing against it, against the side of my hand, but it is not palmed in the sense that I'm trying to open my fingers and reveal my thumb to make it look like there's nothing in my hand. Just be natural. And that, of course, is a mantra that Guy Vernon offered, be natural. Okay, that's palming with a ball, okay? Now, there's a couple of vanishes that I do. I took the Chavez course. I was fortunate to be involved in that when I was younger. And I met Marion Chavez and so on, and they do have quite a few different ways to vanish a ball. And if you look at Buckley, or you can even look in Ganson's book, Louis Ganson's book, Routine Manipulation. He has many different variations on ways that you can make a ball disappear. In my experience, I've tried to whittle it all down to just 2 different vanishes, and I did them in that routine that you saw a little earlier. The first one, and the only one I do when I do my silent act, is just a fake transfer. And what this is basically is you just place the ball into your left hand and make it disappear. I do that in my act. I then reach into the hat, grab the ball in the shell, and I move into the multiplication of the balls. But that's the only vanish I do. I show them one time, they know I can do it, and that's all. This is a fake transfer. Now you can do this with a coin, you can do it with a rock, you can do it with anything. But with a ball, your hand comes up to the area where the ball is. You make a motion that makes it appear as the ball is in your hand. Snap your finger, the ball disappears, you kind of look for it, a little bit of action there. You look in the hat, you notice it's in the hat, reach down in, and you recover the ball. That's a fake transfer vanish. Fake transfer vanish, recover out of the pocket. Very good. Takes a lot of practice, though, to get that realistic. Now, the other vanish that I do in the world of multiplying balls or ball magic is one that I worked up basically on my own. I take a ball and I squeeze it in my fist like so. I do this with a coin also. I show this hand empty, tap that hand, and the ball disappears. Again, you look for the ball, not in the hat, reach down in your pocket, and there it is. I got a wire in my pocket. Normally you'd want to reach all the way down, search around, pull it out from the bottom. This has got to do with microphones and what have you. Okay, now, those are the two vanishes that you could use. I don't think it's wise to do a lot of different vanishes. I mean, there is this one a lot of people do where they roll the ball in this way, it disappears. There's another one where you drop the ball into your hand in this fashion. I just think that it turns into possibly juggling, and you're doing too much. Make it disappear 1 or 2 times, and that's enough, okay? In terms of reproduction, we talked about it. You can reproduce the ball in space, which it's kind of held in the palm. Reach over here, it pops up into your hand. And you're just getting the momentum of your hand. The ball pops up to the top of your hand. So you're kind of here, you look up there, there's the ball. Reach up and grab it with your other hand. You can reproduce out of your pocket, which I kind of like, or you can do a vanish and reproduce like so out of the hat, okay? Now the next thing I'd like to show you is with a silk handkerchief. It's how to vanish a ball. And what I'm going to have to do is get a silk hanky to show you this with. And I'm going to use a different ball than a rubber ball. I'm going to use a wooden ball. Okay, another vanish, instead of using your bare hands, you can incorporate a handkerchief, which they've got great flash on stage. They look very nice. This is obviously a silk handkerchief. You could use a white pocket handkerchief just as easily, of course. This is a vanish here that I will show you. I don't do a lot of this either, and I don't do this in my act. I do like to show you, though, because it's a pretty vanish. You cover the ball, the red ball, with the hanky. It goes down into your hand. You do like this, and the ball disappears. Okay? At that point, you could take the hanky, place it away, reach out into space, reproduce the ball. Let me just show you how this thing works. You've got the hanky, you show the ball. Now, this handkerchief is 24 inches. Well, I'd say it's 20 inches. It's a little big, but let's see. Watch, we cover the ball. There it is. You can see it through there. Drop it in your hand. You come to here, and the ball disappears. At this point, you do a little cleanup move. It's gone. Put this in your pocket or your breast pocket if you're wearing a coat. If you used your pocket hanky, you reach out. Oh, there's the ball again. It's a very simple vanish. What I do is once I get the ball down into my hand here, it's in my hand. I basically go up with my left hand. At the same time, I drop that ball from my right hand into my left hand, pull the handkerchief away. Give it a little pull so that you get the hanky away from, go here, pull it away. Reach out, there's the ball again. So again, it's just another variation on a vanish that kind of adds some color to a routine. And then later when we talk about my routine, I'll show you the untying silk that I always use, always have used in my ball routine. Okay, now I want to talk to you about a fundamental element of the multiplying ball trick, and what that is the shell. The shell is the secret of the trick, of course. And as you know, we've got the rubber balls, the silicone balls in here. The shell is a half circle, it's hollowed out. The ball that you're going to produce from the shell fits down inside. Now there's some considerations regarding shells. I have a set right here. I have the Owen. These are P&L. Those are Thayer. And these are made by a gentleman in Japan that I don't believe makes them any longer. His name was Nakami. And this man was able to take and create the greatest shell that you could ever use with a set of multiplying wooden balls. These were given to me by Bob Higa in 1975. But what you've got here is a shell that is so well done that you can actually show this side, give it a little longer burn than you would with a rubber shell. and then come to the position where you produce 2. It's virtually paper thin, this shell. Very delicate. I've cracked it and had to re-glue it and so on. But that's the best shell that I've ever come across for a multiplying ball set, made by a man, Nakami, in Japan. And this is the way they were sold. 4 balls, and you got 2 shells with each set. Very nice. Now, I mentioned earlier that wooden balls, you know, the benefit, you crack those shells together, it makes people think that you're dealing with solid balls. And one of the reasons, of course, is the sound, but another reason is this move that I've developed. If you look here, you see that there's a shell between my thumb and my index finger. There's the solid ball. When you're going to do the production from 1 to 2, your thumb and index finger pinch not only the ball, but hold onto that shell as well. And you reach out and you produce 2. Now at this point, what I'm going to try to do is convince you these balls are solid. I don't use a shell. The way I do that is I hit that shell with my thumb, right like so. And I roll that and pull this ball away. Show 2. I come back to this position. See my thumb here? I hit here. I spin it again. 2 solid balls. Boom. I can use a dropper, get a ball, or I could take one of the balls, put it in the hat. We'll look into this multiplication in a minute. But what I'm trying to tell you here is when you use a shell, if you want to do a nice turnover move that shows solid balls, use this move here. This is something I came up with. Now, let's say I get to 3. As well, you come here, you reload. These are larger balls. These are not the easiest to work with. I'm not used to wooden balls. I use silicone balls. You get to this position here. You produce 3. You show. Remember always to use pause to your advantage. Once again in this position, you can take, and you can position the shell in a position that normally it wouldn't be in, which is out here. Usually they're always between these fingers, but don't feel like you've got to keep it there. Lead with the shell. Come to here. Now you're back in the home position where the shell is between your thumb and index finger. Okay? All right. That's basically a move with the shell. The fundamental move with a ball and a shell would be, for you beginners, let me drop down a size. Let me just show you. You can take and work from here. If you like, you can reach out, produce 2 like so. Want to make sure the people over there, you kind of bend your hand back a little bit, aren't looking. Or you can work it from in front of your body like so, where you produce here. It's a little more natural. It's not as tiring. The shell is a little better protected, certainly from the sides. But what you do is you've got that ball and that shell in your hand, and you're just able to take this finger here, go behind, catch the ball, and pop it into view. Then, as I said, I go into a thing very quickly like that. Okay? Now let me say one thing about using silicone. These balls will stick together. So you come out of the hat with a ball and a shell. You don't want to give it quite as much a flash because you can see that shell. But you'll have to bend on this. You'll have to squeeze that and separate the ball from the shell. And then you're in a position where you can instantly produce the ball. See, and then I grab the shell and come away. But sometimes these rubber balls, these silicone balls, will stick together and you try to open them. You don't want to do that in front of the audience. What you want to do is be clean and then pop it into view like so. Now in Louis Ganson's book, he shows a move where you come from here, the shell is facing you, and you turn over this way. Isn't that pretty? You place ball, you can show here, you can place the ball there, and you do a turnover again, and you come to 3, okay? So there are variations on the way you handle a shell, and the way you produce, and the way you display. Okay? Now, I want to get into a subject here. I have a letter from Bill Baird, who was a great manipulator, and he worked in vaudeville and did the billiard ball trick, was one of his feature effects. He says when you do the ball roll, do it with your left side toward the audience. Don't roll it immediately. Also roll it back and forth several times before it rolls under the hand. The move I'm talking about now is the move where the ball is on the fingers like so, rolls back and forth, and you're able to then roll it underneath your index finger back into your hand. It's a pretty difficult move. And the way Bill Baird described it in a letter that he wrote me was that you roll it, you catch it, you roll it back several times like so. When ball rolls down finger, look at audience. When it rolls down and under, look at ball. Repeat this each time for it sells the move. So what he's saying is, when you're in this position here and it goes under, now look back at the audience. But take your attention and put it on the ball when it's going to perform the roll under. Basically, to perform the roll under, what you've got to start practicing is to be able to use your second finger and lever it against your index finger. I'm using this finger here, pushing the ball against my index finger into that position between my thumb and index finger. You practice by catching, you do a little roll, you can do that looking at the audience, as Bill said, and then when it does it, you look at it and then you look back at the audience and you come around. Okay, the last thing I want to do is the in and out move, which people have complimented me on, and this will conclude our move section, okay? You're in a position, let's say, where you've got 3 balls in a shell and you've got an extra ball in the hat. Now this is very simple. You go into the hat, drop the ball, come up, put the ball right back between your fingers, grab the next ball. Put the ball in the hat. Basically, you just take balls. Now I've eliminated the shell and put a solid ball into my hand, okay? Here we go, like so, like so, like so, like so. And you look into the hat, you're surprised they're not there. Once again, you drop it into the hat, you grab, you drop it in, you start looking, you can't, and at this point you're once again, finally, you start to get down, and then you get to finish a routine. So as I said earlier in the tape, that gives you, instead of a jumbo ball or a flash 4, kind of a finish to get out of the routine in kind of an upbeat fashion. Okay, in review, we looked at the background, very important when you're doing multiplication of balls or manipulation in general. Talked about palming, and you don't really want to palm, you want to hold things in a natural fashion. We talked about vanishes. The 2 I use is the fake transfer, and I also use the vanish where I move the ball out of the hand and roll the hand over, and I catch it in the palm. Reproduction can be from a pocket, could be from a hat, could be from your hand. I showed you a vanish with the yellow silk. We talked about the shell, and I showed you a couple of methods for the turnover, for the production with the shell, and I did kind of demonstrate for you ways that I show shells so that they don't appear to be shells, they appear to be a solid ball. We looked at the roll under by Bill Baird, and last we'd look at this in and out of the hat move, which is a fun way to conclude a ball routine without using a big finish item. Okay? So that concludes the move section of this videotape. Okay, now I'd like to talk to you about multiplication, and that doesn't mean we're going to go to 3rd grade. We're actually going to talk about the multiplication of the balls. I've addressed this throughout the tape. I want to be more specific right now. I'm going to use a body load to produce the balls. I'm not going to work out of the hat, not going to work out of the pockets. We're going to use a body load. Now you notice how when I move my hand towards the hat, what's the first thing my left hand does? It goes over here and it pats these balls up against my leg. I've got 2 balls on this coat and those clips. As I go down here, I get a feel for where those balls are. Now, I haven't grabbed them yet. I'm showing you a ball. I reach here. Again, my left hand's doing a lot of work. I just, with my left hand, took a ball out of that clip. I brought my hand around. I keep my thumb covered in this position so you can't see in, so that I'm covering. And I take that ball and I place it in the shell. Okay? Now I move it to the second and third finger. I show here, I show there. I produce another ball. Now, my left hand just got a ball from under my coat. I move to here. Again, I'm shielding as I come up to load the shell. I show 3, and I once again come to here, and there are 4 balls. So the body load technique is, I think, more deceptive than working out of a hat where you produce the balls like the little routine I improvised, or maybe out of your pockets, because when you do use a hat or you do use pockets, people know that's probably where the balls are coming from. You use body loads, and you can use body loads up here. You can use body loads down along these edges here like I have, just so long as it's a natural position. Okay, you come out, got a ball in a shell. I reach over here in the air. Everybody's looking there. I pull a ball out with my left hand. I just grab the ball. I turn towards the audience. I place that in the shell, and I show. I show the 2, front and back, produce. Now, I just grabbed a ball. I square up. I place that shell on the ball that was in this hand, bam, bam, and grab the center ball out. You show, produce, use that shell move I talked about earlier. There it is, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's a great way to do a multiplication using body loads. Okay, I'd like to now show you my routine. Basically, the routine I went through earlier in the videotape. I want to walk through the different moves and so on that I'd made. The first thing, if you remember, I did was produce a silk hanky. That's a very simple procedure. This one is a little different in that it does have a reel hooked down at the end of it. This is a P&L utility reel, and it has a finger clip on it. Now, what you do is you let that hang, and you take the silk hanky, and you wrap it around your 2 fingers, your index and second finger, and then you are able to remove your fingers, hold the reel by that clip, and you can then walk on. You can pick this up off a table during your act, what have you, but in any event, when you need to, just let that go, hold on to the clip, produce a hanky. Now, I'm going to show you the serpent silk. This really isn't a silk video, but I've always done the serpent silk with my ball routine. So let me please show you how this is done. Basically, I say I've got a reel down here that holds that end of the silk. Nice P&L reel. I roll the silk hanky like so. Now, this is the way that you do it, and this is written up in the Encyclopedia of Silk Magic, but you get it into a nice rope. You come around down to the back like so. You put in your thumb palm the end that doesn't have a reel and pull that thread, the end that is tied through, into a knot like so. So what we have is the actual fine thread running up to the reel in my hand. The reel is finger palmed in my hand. The thread is pinched between my thumb and second finger. I'm not pinching the reel, but at the time when I want, I let go with thumb pressure a little bit and give that a little bit of a jerk. And then I look, and you get it to come all the way up and untie. At that point, you do like so, and what I do is a little stuck silk, kind of a comedy bit where the thing is stuck. when you set it down, and when you toss it to your left hand, you throw the reel inside the hanky. Okay, that's the serpent silk. Takes practice. You may have to look up in some books exactly how that's performed. First thing I did was I took a ball out. Very simple. Showed the ball, did the ball roll. The ball roll, there isn't a great deal of description I can give except practice, practice, practice. You roll it from the thumb to index, between there, to between there, to between there, and reverse. It's the ball roll. Couple of bits I have is I go up, I time it, so I catch it on the upswing. I look over at that silk like I'm a little upset at it. My fingers keep moving, I drop it back in, just a bit. Then I do this, and it stops rolling. So the ball roll is entertaining. People like to see that. Like we talked earlier about visibility, you want to do it in a position where you're nice showing it. You can, if you elect, show it on this angle. Personally, I've always done the ball roll out front like so, and done the two bits I just described. Now, vanish. Fake transfer, gone. Out of the pocket, go deep in your pocket and get it. This is a convincing vanish. Place it in your hand, it's in this hand. Vanish. Like I said, I only usually do one vanish. Reach into the hat, get the ball and the shell as if you're recovering the vanished ball. Now, did you see that movement when I moved over here? I separated the ball from the shell. Show the ball and the shell, show this hand empty, boom, two. Pause. Spin the shell, we covered earlier. Come back like so, two. Now, let's get rid of one. You roll the ball up into the shell. Roll it into the shell here and place it in the hat. But actually, I have nothing here. I go in, grab a ball, and produce another. Now, this is sometimes referred to as perpetual balls. Well, you can use your pocket. Now you can get to the position, show, careful on that shell. When I show, I don't show very long, three. You can do a turnover like so, turn over here like so. Once again, roll it into the shell, go into the hat. You do a little perpetual, depending on how the audience is, you get to four. You can do the in and out move here now, as we described earlier, like so. And at this point, you place the balls into the large ball. That's the routine I did a little earlier. Pretend it's stuck. Go from there to here. Go here. And I only do this because the nature of the prop. Set it down. And there's the routine I presented earlier. If you'd like to use that, feel free, and I hope you have good luck with it. Music is a very, very important part of magic, and I think you'll agree if you look at Las Vegas or what's on television, everybody's got very strong music working for them. People expect good music, so keep that in mind when you select the type of music you're going to work to. You see more and more today people that do sleight of hand or pantomime type magic, the music is actually synchronized to their actions. If they make a move, something appears, the mood of the music is there, it crescendos at that point in time, and they've spent the money on having professional people put that music together for them. That's a possibility for you. Take advantage of that because it really enhances the entertainment. There's a device sold by Wireless Wizardry in Cleveland called a Showtech. It gives you complete control of music, and very simple to turn it on and off, and it also adds a very high level of professionalism to your show. I personally use a Showtech. Okay? In conclusion, I hope you've enjoyed the videotape. Some closing advice for you is, one, keep it simple. Don't try to get too elaborate. Don't try to do too much difficult manipulation. Work at the level you're comfortable with, because if you're struggling, the audience will be struggling to enjoy what you're doing. Also, don't tell the secret. I know that I've done that here, but we're all magicians, hopefully. You've paid to see the different types of things that I've learned over the years with the multiplying ball trick. But generally speaking, I don't tell people how magic's done. It ruins it for them. There's no advantage. It doesn't help you, and it doesn't help them. And finally, let me give you this little bit of advice. Three most important things with sleight of hand magic are practice, practice, practice. Thank you very kindly. Balls.